Hi everybody, that ended abruptly. Just wanted to welcome you to our first ever event for Google Enterprise for Education in partnership with C Learning and us as Edufuturists. This first session, we're looking at shared experiences and impact, and we are looking at senior leaders. We've got a group of brilliant senior leaders that are about to be speaking to us in a moment. We're very, very excited to welcome a number of guests. Before we get into that, we wanted just to let you know that there are other events that are coming up as well for teaching staff and for security staff. Across the bottom will be the link for you to register for those events. And if you haven't registered for today and you're on and you want to do that, oh, there it is. Register at enterprise.edufuturists.com, and then you'll get all the information, the slides or any presentations. We'll send out the video of this once he's finished as well. So please make sure you've registered with us for this and for the future events that are coming up. So without further ado, we want to get really into the day today and get talking about not just about the product we're talking about, because that's really important that we hear that today, that yes, we're talking about Google Enterprise for Education, and we know that brilliant tool is making a real difference in schools and colleges up and down the country. What we want to also do is make sure that we're talking about the shared experiences of schools and colleges, not just in this country, because as you'll find out in a moment, we've got international schools here as well, but also the impact of those things, not just in light of the pandemic, but also going forward and as part of digital transformation across the education sector. So you've had enough of me. For those people who don't know me, my name is Ben Whitaker. I'm one of the Edufuturists, and I'm a curriculum manager at Burnley College in the North. Steve.
Hopefully you can hear me. I've just realised I was just like, worried. My headphone popped up then as if my sound wasn't on, and I was like, one of those catastrophes, and Ben was going to show his sign because I know he's made one for today. So I'm Steve Hope. I'm a director of Edufuturists, but I'm also head of independent learning for Leeds City College, Keighley College, and Harrogate College as well. Big Google users, and we've been using technology both in and outside of the classroom for about 5 or 6 years now. Should we go over to Matt?
I'm Director of IT Corporate Services at WCG, which is Warwickshire College Group, and I'm also a Deputy College Director for the group. And we're a Google for Education Enterprise user.
Fantastic. Cheers, Matt. Jackie?
Hi, I'm Jackie Grab, and I'm the Principal CEO of City College Plymouth. And we're really excited because we're on a new strategic journey to place digital front and centre of the college's vision to be the learning destination of choice. And we're transforming our culture, our facilities and our resources to be a college of the future.
Fantastic. That's a tough one to follow. Scott Morgan.
Thanks. That is tough to follow. So I'm Scott. I am digital lead at Bridgend College. So we've used G Suite probably for about three years now. We were recently recognised as a Google Reference College back in February this year. So looking forward to this.
Fantastic. Thanks, Scott. And Scott Hall?
Yes, the other Scott. Hi, my name is Scott Hall, and I am currently sitting in Basel, Switzerland. I'm working at the International School Basel as the coordinator of the junior school technology initiatives, as well as a digital learning coach for junior school and middle school. And we are longtime Google for Education users. We're a Google reference school, and really been happy with our use of Google Enterprise over the last sort of year or so. So glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic, thank you. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Simon Fasola.
Thank you. It's quite a build-up there, Steve. And I just want to say that I think there's been some great introductions, but I think Jackie does win. I've got to say. My name's Simon Fasola. I'm the lead for G Suite Enterprise for Education across EMEA. I'm lucky enough to work with some fantastic customers, as you see in this call, like the Warwickshire College Group, and of course Jackie as well, with Dan College too. So really pleased to be here and really happy to add to the conversation around G Suite Enterprise for Education.
I can just imagine on the other side of the camera, Jackie's Jackie's literally gone around all the staff rooms and nobody's got any screens. She's just got a wall of literally every note that she's made and every point that she's definitely going to get into the conversation. It's just like kind of a bit of a Minority Report moment. I can see it, definitely.
I also think that as a CEO on this call, we just all better behave ourselves, because she probably knows all of our bosses.
Ben, in fairness, she's not yours. She hasn't got the red finger over the button to eject you, mate. Don't worry. But she might know the person who does, Ben. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
So
I'm taking notes. You're all talking.
Well, so we are really excited about today, and I think what today is going to allow us to do is to hear those stories that we've talked about. Before we get into the stories of how people are doing it, I think it'd be good if Simon maybe gave us a little bit of an introduction about what enterprise is, and maybe picks out from other people about what the difference is maybe between enterprise for education as opposed to Google for education. Then we can talk about the difference that makes going forward and where people have done that. Because, by the way, Simon might not know yet, Burnley College signed over yesterday so that we have gone Google Enterprise for education as of yesterday as well. So it's not just something that we are talking about, we're practicing it as well. So, Simon.
Wow, that is news to me, actually. That is exciting news. Congrats. It's great. It's great to hear that you're taking the next steps with Google. So really pleased to hear that. I will talk to this. I do a lot of presenting to slides, but I think it's nice to just talk about it. I do have slides actually up the sleeve. I always have slides. It's one thing we're good at Google. But I think let's just chat about G Suite Enterprise for Education, what it is really. And really what it is an upgrade to your G Suite environment. So enhanced security, admin controls, data analytics and insights on one side of the coin, let's say. And on the other side, we're talking about enhanced learning tools, to Jackie's point, and how we're really taking those to the next level. That is what it is in a nutshell. So it is an upgrade on G Suite for Education as you know it. So everything that you experience in G Suite for Education, you have access to in the upgrade, of course, but you just have this enhanced functionality. It's going to really help you, enhance the security, visibility, and control, do more with your data and insights, expand those learning possibilities with tools on the teaching and learning side like Google Meet, premium features within Google Meet, empower authentic thinking with features like originality reports, which we can talk about, and even some interesting kind of data and insights / teaching and learning tools like Cloud Search. There's a lot in there. There's definitely a lot in there. We can dig in and talk about some of the different features respectively. But that's a real snapshot of what this is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we'll get different insights, and that's, I suppose, the focal point really, because everybody will be thinking about the reason why we've gone enterprise, but also actually some of those bits that we found that we maybe wasn't our main reason for going. I know we've got people like Matt on that call that might be from a security and a data point of view in terms of initially, but actually then we've got some really nice conversations. Actually, the added stuff in terms of Google Meet that's come in that I think everybody's been used to over zoomed out, teamed out, and now and the enterprises looks fantastic with the breakout rooms and everything else. I think some of the layers are just really fantastic for teaching and learning. But let's go to Matt first then, in terms of why you use it and some stories of impact, Matt. What anything to share for us?
I mean, really, from our perspective, it's those online and meetings and lessons with recording features, like you were alluding to there. Really, that's been a real sort of bit of a breakthrough, really, on the fact that we can record lessons when they happen, so at least students can then catch up if they are missing for any reasons, particularly in the current climate. Another nice feature that we've used quite a bit is the fact that you get the UK-based phone number for dial-in. That has come in very, very useful for users that aren't necessarily overly IT savvy, or those that haven't got devices easily to hand to be able to attend meetings. We've had governors dial into specialist meeting groups and things just on the phone. And that's been a real sort of like benefit. I'm also aware that some of the students have even dialed into certain lectures when they can't get the broadband working at home, for example. So it helps sort of with that inclusivity piece. one of the other big areas that why we bought it was also the mobile device management piece for Android devices. I suspect, like most colleges, we're trying to strive towards obtaining that Cyber Essentials Plus security standard that we're expected to have, and we need to be able to manage our Android smartphones, which we have several hundred of. And it was just a cost-effective way of doing that, really, and that's how we came across the enterprise version ourselves initially, just for that piece, and then it expanded from there very, very quickly.
Yeah, I think on that, I think it's really, really important as well. And I know that lots of people talk when you mention there about the video recording elements is the bit that what you get with enterprise is the ability for that to store for longer periods of time, and also then to be able to I suppose share that out into classroom and use that for synchronous and asynchronous learning, which has been a huge benefit. And I know that at the college where I am now, there's been a huge benefit to being able to send that at an appropriate time, which I suppose what you're talking about there as well, Matt. Yeah. So that learners can learn at a time appropriate for them, as well as for students that might need to revisit that material, being able to go back into that. Yeah,
absolutely. And the other thing as well, of course, is the increased capacity inside the Google Meet. For some meetings with the management and staff briefings and things around the current crisis, having over 100 recipients in a meeting has been a godsend. Yeah.
And Jackie, from a CEO point of view, in terms of, you might not have made the decision, but you definitely control the finances and everything else that goes on. What's your view in terms of the impact that it's having, or the reasons why you went there?
Yeah, and our story is that we're aiming to be digital and Google first in our day-to-day activity. Cloud-basing our core systems has improved productivity and connectivity. It supported our transition into the lockdown, and the simplicity of Google meant that adoption to working and teaching online was successful.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, we've also had great success with the Google Sites replacing traditional course planners and lesson plans, like what Matt was saying, by making vibrant and evolving sites that our students are better informed and supported. I also think engagement and collaboration has increased, and the quality of our resources for our online learning has increased dramatically.
You know what, from a CEO to actually know that granular level is I'm not saying that all CEOs won't know that, but to actually know about Google Sites, the use of digital portfolios and everything else actually is really nice to hear. And I know that it's that transition to digital portfolios and all of that is really important.
Can I just, before you go any further, just mention the product placement that just happened? I feel like we need to call that out. There's a Google for Education mug just gone really big in the bottom video screen. There it is. Just if anybody else is looking, we've got some too.
I can't do that. I haven't got my shirt on. Brilliant.
Teaching and learning is the absolute priority, though, because it's part of our core business, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it a lot on the podcast, and I'm sure we'll get some insight from the two Scots as well, in terms of, regardless of COVID and the current situation, that the ability to extend learning beyond the classroom and break down the barriers that so much of our students are going through, childcare, so many different things have actually keep them away from the classroom. The ability to actually deliver digitally and take it online actually opens up, I know there's a talk about disadvantaged a lot, but actually there's so much that actually Google and digital platforms can offer to actually ease the burden on disadvantaged students as well on the flip side. And I don't think that's researched or discussed enough, really. How about you, Scott Morgan, at your place in Bridgend, and any of that you're seeing?
Yeah, and I mean, echoing kind of what everybody else has said, G Suite for us has always been about teaching and learning. That was our kind of first. That's why we went with that. That's our core business. That's why we've got it. And I think we had enterprise. I think we had 10 licenses or something for enterprise last year. And I think IT, the IT admin team kind of had them, and we were sort of looking at the security features and but obviously for us, over the last 6 months, the Google Meet stuff was the real key for us to kind of go that way. And yeah, again, just from a teaching and learning point of view, that enhancement that you get, I feel is what I kind of use to sell it to our senior leadership team in terms of how that could enhance what we do. For us, it was kind of the admin side of things is really, I'm quite interested in that, and it's it's good to have all that. And I think, but that wasn't the thing that sold it for us. It's always been the teaching and learning side of things that sells G Suite to our teams. But I think admin did kind of, their eyes lit up a little bit when we decided to actually go down that road and get it for the domain wide. So that was good. Live streaming is a good one as well for us. We've used that quite a lot. So for like staff briefings, so principals briefing or senior leadership team briefing, we've run it through live stream rather than through like a Google Meet, and obviously because we don't want the interaction when there's like 400 or 500 people in the watching the live stream. So yeah, that's been a really helpful kind of addition for us as well, which we get with Enterprise.
Yeah, I think that is something that you kind of take for granted in the day-to-day of being able to have a briefing. So I've done a briefing for some staff this morning, and I had 80 staff in a room, and then I had a Google Meet in the corner for those people that aren't in college, because the college is still open and staff are still working from college. It's that ability to be able to do that to large groups of people is probably something that you don't think, well, because we haven't got a building, we can't do that. Normally you'd all go into a performance theatre or a lecture theatre. We can't do that in the current climate. So, and we know that that's not necessarily something that is just for the current climate. It's something that probably will help for those people who work off-site, that people that might be trainer assessors or lecturers that work with employers or across multiple sites. This could be something that isn't just a pandemic solution for streaming. It's something that is a long-term solution. Scott, you're Scott Hall. I think this could be quite fun. The second Scott, the other Scott, Hall, Scott, whatever we're going to call. You're over in Basel in Switzerland. I had the is it Basel or Basel? Am I saying it right?
It's Basel if it's in English, and I guess
okay,
if you want to
I'll
speak
stick it English. Basel. I'm not very good at English. Never mind.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I think I can echo a lot of what has been said already about G Suite. We took the decision 4 or 5 years ago, kind of in a strategic way, to want to make learning with digital tools just be learning. And one of the big steps, of course, in that journey has been G Suite, and we have pretty much have driven our initiatives via Chrome. Single sign-on. For this school year, we're actually bring your own device for grades 5 to 12. So we have about 975 students bringing devices to school across 3 campuses every day. And of course, G Suite is instrumental in all of this. And I can echo a lot of what has been said. Certainly, bringing together large groups of people in a time when bringing large groups of people together is not maybe the best thing to do. Here in Switzerland, we have a ban against large groups, but we've run assemblies with an entire school where each classroom signs into the Meet, and the principal leads the assembly in engaging all the students and all the classes at the same time. We've done live streams, we've done parent meetings, welcome back evenings via Google Hangouts, and it's been really, really, really successful to continue a community feel or a sense of community in a time when it's more important than ever. But I think the other thing that, again, I could echo the other things, but I think one of the things that might be different, or maybe something that we haven't talked about in regard to being an international school, we have issues with GDPR that we have to be aware of. And, having the extra data security features that Enterprise offers you, it's not only the recordings, because of course, recordings are essential to not only teaching and learning, but maybe child safety. And then the data security issues, the setting overviews to make sure that, as we're changing things in the console on the Google Suite side, that, those things there's some sort of checks and balances there. So I think really that's maybe the thing that has been, we didn't maybe make the choices. I think, as Scott mentioned, we had about 10 licenses as well. in about March, we went with our entire school as we went to digital learning. But really, I think one of the add-on benefits has been the extra security features, as well as the kind of oversight that we can have that we couldn't have had normally on sort of what's going on inside of the domain.
Yeah, I think that control and those added features, I think, in fairness to Google, there was so many stuff when lockdown hit, and it quickly evolved. And I think we'll probably all agree, anybody that uses it, they respond really well and really quickly to customer feedback, and it's with a click of a button. And if you're a big organisation like that I work in, if you say to every single teacher, if you want something changing, put it in there, and 1,500 teachers or even students start doing it, then you're more likely to actually make the change. And I think we've seen that in terms of the iteration of Google Meet, in terms of its security features, the ability to have the doorbell ring and all of those different features, and the knock stuff, and also be able to remove people and keep them out if needed as well, which some don't have. And again, this is not a measure of one between the other, but I think once you've used it, you actually see the benefit of it, don't you? But as in terms of a whole group, and this is going to be like herding cats, where I say anybody want to talk about this, and everybody tries to jump in. So just be mindful of that. Let's see. It's like I'm teaching again. We're all thinking about one platform and one digital platform. Why do we think that we've gone Google, and everybody on the call is going Google? Why do you think that's so important in terms of just picking one and focusing on that one digital platform?
Can I go?
Yeah, of course you can, Scott. Yes.
For me, it's training. So for me, it's to do with staff development. That is why we want one consistent platform that is intuitive, that people understand, and that that's their sort of one-stop shop. And I think we've spent a lot of time. I've spent a lot of time and effort and money on staff training and staff development programs over the last 2 years, and we've set now as a kind of base standard for all of our staff to aspire to achieve the Google Certified Educator Level 1 certification. So that's all curriculum and business support staff. So I think we've got 250, something like that, have now gone through Level 1, and about 50 or so gone through Level 2. And I think that just that consistency, I suppose, with the one single platform is the main reason for me. And I suppose the other thing is for students, a lot of people come through the door having already used Gmail. They know what Google Drive is, they know what they are. And if if they come in and they use something completely different they've never seen before, it just makes everything a lot more difficult. So for me, it's the training both for staff and for students, which I just wouldn't introduce another platform on top, something else that does something kind of similar, that's a bit of a VLE. I just wouldn't. It just makes sense to me that it's all in one place. And I think G Suite is just great for that.
Yeah, and I think just to jump on that, if anybody's been on a Google journey for a long time, and Google has evolved. I remember we started our journey before Google Classroom existed, and actually you'd speak to teachers and you'd speak to students, and you said we use Google, and they say the search engine. And actually, Google for Education has become such a massive tool in education in the UK, Europe, and beyond, that actually people have picked it up in terms of consumer. That actually we're seeing so many people that used to just have Hotmail accounts. The majority of students now, the vast majority, have Gmail accounts, and I'm sure that you see that in your organisation. So it's a seamless lead from consumer as a normal life to education, primary, secondary, further, and HE now as well, where people used to say nobody uses it. I think that's a complete myth if anybody now tries to use that excuse, isn't it?
I think one of the things, and I can echo what Scott said, this kind of uniformity goes a long way. And I think that beyond when you have a lot or a majority of the teachers trained, for us, we've always looked at the introduction or use of technology. It's usually about two things: it's about differentiation and about being efficient. That we can spend time on learning more than we can on technology, or technology at the benefit of the learning. And what I think we've found certainly in our experiences in the last sort of 6 or 8 months is that Google for Education has allowed us to, we have a standard set of tools that we can use together. We have a standard vocabulary, a way of talking about the way learning is is disseminated, the way rubrics and feedback loops happen. We're always talking about the same thing. There's a way we can standardize how Google Classroom is used potentially. So we don't have to, I think maybe my point is that, I think it's when you have one platform that the whole school is focusing on, you can move past the button pushing to talk about learning very quickly. And I think that's really one of the powers of having this, sort of full suite of tools. Once you get through the training bits, you can talk about how best they can be used for learning.
Yeah, I think if you tie to that as well, that we talked on the podcast, might have not been last episode before, we talked about the need for the balance between standardization and innovation, and that actually schools and colleges absolutely need to have standards. There are parameters we must work within. There are things that are external to us that we must make sure are in place. So there's a level of standardization and consistency, but innovation within those boundaries is really, really important, isn't it? And I think what we're seeing here in the conversation we're having is that what Google allows us to do here is that ability to have the parameters and safety nets that come from the advanced security features and the data protection and the fact that everything sits within a domain and enhanced features in Vault and all the things that come with that. But there's a lot of innovation that happens within those parameters in those standardization. And I think that's what, if I were to kind of summarize what people are saying there, that level of consistency and that one platform gives us the ability to exist within the parameters we need to do, but also be free to do that. I don't know if anybody else wants to maybe add anything to that, the idea around the need for one. Is there anything that anybody else wants to add there?
I wouldn't mind adding, actually. It's the simplicity, like the Scots have alluded to, really, but also as well the fact that it works on pretty much all devices, and students can bring in any device that they come through to come into the college, use the BYOD networks and such like, and they all get the same experience. And to me, that's a really, really key point, because the price of a cheap Android phone or a Chromebook is a lot less than other more powerful devices, and yet everybody gets the same experience. And that really, really helps sort of get that universal standard across the entire college group from our perspective.
Jackie, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, thank you. For us, looking from a slightly different angle, using a consistent platform, we've developed a far more coherent organisational development strategy. And using the Google Education qualifications and creating digital champions, that set the compass, and that's sort of the journey that we're on right now.
Great. Yeah, Steve's talking, he's muted.
Oh my God. Yeah, sorry guys. Yep, everybody's, yep. I knew it was going to happen. Normally it's within the last 3 minutes of the show, but I was going to talk about your standardization for staff. But what I saw and what I've seen is a real frustration from students, where if you're picking, and there are hybrid models at work, but if staff have an option to use Teams or Google and Blackboard and all those different things, that's fine because of their preference, and it's not really about the learners. But then worst case scenario, a student goes to a lesson at 9 o'clock and then goes to another session in the afternoon and is using a different tool. 100% I'm sure we'll all agree here the focus point should be on limiting the impact and the negativity on students. And actually, if we have to work a little bit harder as teachers, I know we talk about workload, but also we want to make sure the experience is a good one and the best it possibly can be for students as well.
Yes, Stephen.
I've just ended that one, didn't I? Sorry.
Yes, Stephen. I just realised I almost didn't unmute myself. Simon, is there anything you might want to add on that element around that single point of for learning?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much I could. Let me just say, like, this is an amazing event, and I'm just sitting here just listening to the feedback, because I'm actually more interested in what everyone on this call has to say than what I could preach about. But I do feel like, from that point, the Scots views, we take a step back on simplicity as well, and just making things easy for the learners and for the teaching staff as well. It's absolutely at the core of what we do. if I were to think about the way we approach it, it's very much in line. Everything we've been talking about is very much in line, and it pleases me to hear it because that's the outcome we want. So I did a presentation the other day on originality reports, the singular functionality of our positive approach to plagiarism, if you can imagine such a thing, because we allow students access to the reports as well as teaching staff, and it's a real positive learning experience. What I'm trying to get at is I spoke just about this one solution, but of course that one solution fits in this this larger bucket of solutions, right? A simple collection of solutions that span the security that we've been talking about, and Matt talked about the advanced mobile device management side of things, and we haven't talked about the advanced data analytics you can tap into as well. Then on the teaching and learning side, Google Meet, regional reports. You have to think about it in the context of there are many concerns that teaching staff, that students have as well, and we need a coherent umbrella of these solutions. It's just simple and intuitive to get across, and really, actually, at its core, that's what GC Enterprise for Education does. It's what Google does. We are not a single solution provider. We never will be. We're not specialists in just one area. The way I like to think about that, whether you're a student or you're a teacher, is imagine all the issues you have to consider in the ecosystem of education. And I pointed out a few right there.
I'm not sure if Simon's not been paying his Wi-Fi bill, or Google aren't paying him enough, or maybe or whatever it is. He's gone off. We'll I'm sure he'll come back to that comment in a moment. Is he there?
No, don't worry. I'm gonna go to Jackie on this one, and I'm gonna move it on, and I'm gonna jump a couple of questions, and I'm just gonna do like a normal do, Ben, and just not follow the pattern. In terms of blended and online learning, how vital is Google Enterprise to you now as an organisation in terms of your approach? So we'll start with Jackie on that one. Hopefully you have an answer. If not, apologies, Jackie, that I'm putting you on the spot a bit.
Right, I was talking for a while then. I'm back on. One line answer really is absolutely critical. We need a platform agnostic, cloud-based, reliable suite of tools that support learning. And we want to have something that we can collaborate with and create creativity. But that's it for me, basically.
That'll do for us. Anybody else? How vital is it in terms of your approaches if you've gone to a blended or an online approach for a particular course or your whole curriculum?
I agree, it's essential. I mean, the fact that, I think as Simon pointed out, like one piece of the puzzle, in its simplicity has so many implications on everything else. And I think that, we've talked a lot about the Hangout recordings or the Meet recordings. I mean, just to provide either an asynchronous or synchronous experience for the learners is huge. And then you could talk about, having students accessing, maybe difficult to understand concepts and have it at their fingertips to watch over and over again. The idea that, you can take time and place out of the equation of the education processes. I mean, it's huge. And I think that is, again, there are other examples, but I think that really is when it comes to our blended approach and or at a distance, it's essential.
I'm going to stop asking questions because I just feel like I'm a bit of a mood hoover. I ask it and everybody's just like, maybe it's the way I'm asking questions today. Definitely. So does anybody else want to jump on that one in terms of their approach to blended learning or online learning?
I think for us, well, for me anyway, it's really nice not to have to follow what's in enterprise versus what's in normal education, because I had to look it up, to be honest, before I got on this call to find out what the features of Meet were enterprise features and what
Steve,
were.
it's all right, we'll forgive you.
But it's But it's lovely because, you know, people, I could see it now. People would be asking, oh well, these people that I know have got breakout rooms. Can we have breakout rooms? How do we do that? Can we have Zoom, or could we have some other platform? You know, I could see myself fielding all those queries. So really, that's really nice in that I don't have to think about that. And you know, it's all just there. And I think that's the big thing with G Suite. I'm following the comments in the chat as well, in that it does just work and it is just always there and available. And I think that's a real big win.
I think as well, from my perspective, it's kind of funny at the minute that in my establishment we have more conversations about trying to find decent webcams and microphones to use the platform than we do actually worry about the platform, and I think that says quite a lot. So
a lot of people shifted and said it looks like we're no longer a college, we're placing a large order for a call center, I think. So but that's fine, you know. And that's really interesting in terms of not only the tool, but providing the staff, whether they're at home or in the office, the appropriate resources to be able to actually deliver an outstanding experience, whether it's online or face to face. And it's not a magic 100%. Wand, is it? But I'm going to jump on in terms of the Meet element, that ability, and I think it's coming soon, Simon. I don't know, we're not going to hold you down to a date. I know Google doesn't do dates, but in terms of that ability, and it might have already come, it's not on my domain, in terms of the ability to register through a Meet as well. And I think that simplicity of that element, where you can literally just pull off the attendees list from it, is just so important, and just for efficiency for staff not having to do that.
Yeah, it's coming. It is coming soon, Steve.
What date is it, Simon? Do we know?
Do you want a time as well? We got my. No, I believe it's slated for October. So there's some great features coming soon. Attendance tracking.
No, yeah. Stephen, it is not a magic wand.
So attendance tracking, yeah, it's going to be very useful. I think it's also worth calling out that at the end of a Meet, the Meet owner will receive an email of the figures as well. So it's really useful from a teaching and learning perspective. Of course, you'll be able to access all of that data in the back end, but the issue this solves for is really like on the coal face of teaching and learning, really useful for a number of reasons. And I'll give you I'm sure I don't even have to point them out, but a real easy one to point out would be roll call. You know, just do away with that and you'll know who was at the meeting and who wasn't. And it just takes another task, let's say administrative task, away from the teacher. They can focus on what they really want to be achieving within that class from a digital perspective. So pretty great. Which October? Good. That's great. This October, Dave.
I don't know about everybody else, but this is such a strange year. I think April and March felt like they were 5 years long. So October seems like it's a million miles away. I think it's next week. I think somebody told me. So who knows? But it could feel like October could be next year. Who knows? 2020 is a strange year, but great for EdTech and digital. But I think from Jackie or anybody, I know Matt might be able to come in, or anybody on this one, that actually that register or that attendance thing is vital for guided learning hours as well, and that auditing purposes. That there's that big thing around how can we track, how can we evidence what's happening in terms of the online learning. Straight away, there's something ingrained and seamless built within it. Matt, go on.
I could see Jackie nodding. I was waiting for her to unmute.
You're next. Sorry, I was like people are unmuting. I'll move through. So sorry, Jackie. Please, if anybody's watching, we're not just ignoring Jackie. I just don't want to put her on. But Jackie will definitely come to you next. All right.
Yeah, I mean,
twice now you've done that today.
Yeah, I think from the attendance tracking thing, yeah, it's vital. We've got to know who's turning up into what class and things. And as a side to that, we use a C Learning product, Statistics 24 as well, and that really helps us monitor who's attending, when, how much time they're spending online. And interestingly, it's giving us some really good insights into when the students are using the platform. And it probably won't surprise us to know that it's very popular in the small hours. And that shouldn't come as a surprise, but to some members of staff in our institution, it has come as a surprise. And I think that kind of shows what a an important platform it is for 24-hour learning, regardless of whether the college is really open or not.
Yeah, and I agree with Matt there, but coupled with that, it was really powerful that we could gauge and benchmark exactly, which student was attending which lesson, which was really, really powerful. But also from a safeguarding point of view, really powerful that we knew if our students were there or not. So yeah, really powerful for us.
I don't know if I'm still lagging. Am I working?
You're live now. You were 5 minutes behind. It was like a slow clap at one point, Ben.
To be fair, when I'm 5 minutes, it's like when I go running. I'm always behind anyway. So yeah, I'm a football team as well. So there is. I think it's really worth noticing now that there's been a comment in the chat from My EdTech Life, it's a comment that's made about this concurrent model, and there's a few comments that are coming in the chat regarding cameras, headsets. How do we get that synchronous, asynchronous, concurrent when some people are going to be online, some people are. In our college, we talked about this half and half model that became half rice, half chips, and curry sauce or whatever else it was. But this idea of what does that look like? And I know Scott Morgan, you wanted to kind of jump on this. So is there anything you want to, I suppose, just responding comment to that?
Yeah, so I don't know, just kind of a personal experience yesterday. I was in a team meeting with my IT staff team. I was remote, they were all in the room, and they had their laptop where we've got kind of Dell Windows laptops, and it was on the table. I couldn't hear anything they were saying because they were kind of 2 meters spaced around the room. And I just thought to myself, if we're going to get increasing numbers of students who are accessing from home, but there will be face-to-face delivery going on as well. And I was just wondering what people are doing about that, whether they're buying, we're looking at multi-directional mics for rooms. Do all of your rooms in your institutions that you're at have webcams on the board as standard? Should they? I mean, what are people doing? I suppose I'm just throwing that out there, really. I'm just keen to hear what you guys are doing.
Yeah, we're experiencing exactly the same thing and looking into that. So I'd be really interested in any answers or feedback with that question as well.
Yeah, we've tested some sort of multi-mic Jabra units, and they seem to be performing reasonably well as microphones and such like. But we're also facing that challenge right now of where do we put the cameras? What does that look like? How do we get around other security issues? Like you may have students that aren't really supposed to be on camera and recorded if they end up in the shot and things like that. So I think it's a problem we're all probably trying to solve at the same time, really. And I don't think any of us are going to have a solid answer to give anyone, unfortunately, today.
No, I think it's really interesting. I think my opinion, it's only my opinion, is that actually the best teaching and learning, it doesn't happen where you've got a half and half approach, because you're trying to facilitate both. You're trying to engage with learners in the lesson, but I know obviously it'll be in the news and everything. There's schools where they're having to shut bubbles, and there's people that can't attend because of family members isolating and things like that, where they've not closed a bubble. So we're going to have to mold, and we're going to have to flex up, and we're going to have to iterate and actually come up with something. We've looked at swivels. We've looked at, because I know that you can live stream through the platform using a Chromebook, so you can put Chromebooks down and you can do drops. We've got we've just built a new teacher development center, so for teacher ed or some elements, they're going to have the meeting room solutions. It's not the cheapest, but actually the quality of those mics is absolutely class, to be fair. So it depends on budget. Everything's on budget. You could get a 20 quid webcam if you wanted, but it depends on the quality of what we're trying to achieve and how much the learners can engage in it. I don't think there's a silver bullet, is there? If I think that's what we'll find. I think this is the first time when that question got asked, everybody was like, let me just pretend I'm on mute here, because I don't think anybody actually has a real honest answer.
And if I can jump in, I think that this is actually one, if we take a look at this, from an international school perspective, looking at this issue sort of globally, having this kind of equitable access is a huge issue in a lot of places. Having devices that people can afford and that are connected to the internet. I mean, here I'm sitting in Switzerland, and it is an issue in our local school over the border in Germany and France. It's a huge issue because, of course, the Wi-Fi connections and or devices that are available to young people they don't exist like they may in other places. And I think one of the things we've worked with as far as meeting rooms, I think it's called a snowball microphone. It looks like a kind of a big ball. It's a multi-directional microphone, which has worked out really well. But as far as the webcam, we haven't got a perfect solution.
Yeah, I know there's been some talk about Jamboards. I'm not going to... Yeah. Everybody knows how excited I get about Jamboards.
You and me both, Steve. You and me both.
I think we're now got back. Yeah, look at it. They're a thing of beauty. They're a thing of beauty, aren't they, Scott?
Simon, have you put that as product placement alongside your cup? Have you sent him that so he can?
Yeah, I did. It's something I organised a little early. It's like a cooking show, right?
It's not even a real one. It's just a pull-up screen.
Yeah, Jamboards. It's a good point, actually. I mean, the integration between Google Meet and Jamboard is going to be a fine thing. I think that's going to be quite useful. That's coming as well. I have to check into my notes about when that's coming, but it is coming.
It's hit. It hasn't hit mine. I'm gutted, but it has hit some domains. Yeah,
okay. There you go.
So it's out.
Yeah, useful, I think. But it's what you're talking about overall is a really interesting topic, and I think this is where it's really down to vendors like Google to sit down and just listen and understand how are our customers actually working around these issues. We create these products and these tools, hopefully solving, from the feedback that we get as well, but they're entirely new sets of challenges, like the one that you just highlighted. So it will be really interesting actually to see how, our customers navigate this. We are open ears, to hearing how you going about it, and maybe there are other ways that we can help with this as well. As we gather that feedback, maybe you'll uncover them as you always do. I'm looking on this call. People in this call have actually added so much value to our product base. I'm looking at you, Matt Tennant, as well, Scott's as well. Like there's been a lot of the feedback that's come through from our customers that have helped us develop better solutions. So I'll just take this opportunity to say thank you. And while I'm at it, if you don't mind, I want to thank amazing partners like C Learning as well, who also add this incredible feedback and actually help us take it to the next level. And I'll throw it back to you, Steve. It's enough from me.
No, I totally agree, and I think it's really important. And we do have I think it's the next one on the 22nd of October that we'll have teachers involved in terms of their use of enterprise. But it 100%. Whether we're doing it by design, I wrote the blended strategy for the college, and by design it was like, let's keep away from being in a classroom and delivering to some students out. But actually, let's be honest, we're shuffling, we're iterating, and we're flexing up because there's certain challenges that will come that we didn't foresee. And I'm sure that's happening in schools and colleges everywhere across Europe and the world at the minute. But I know, Ben, you want to touch on something next?
Yeah, something that's, I suppose, close to every senior leader's heart and to every teacher's heart is the idea about workload and teacher well-being as well as student well-being as well. And I know that is there's been a huge the phrase used of Teams fatigue or Zoom fatigue or Google Meet fatigue, and the idea of like that digital detox. In fact, we're doing at Burnley, we're doing a staff development day in a few weeks' time, and the full focus is around digital detox, which is maybe a bit ironic considering we're doing this now. But I suppose it's that whole getting that balance right too, of ensuring that staff well-being is taken care of, as well as the idea around workload. So one of the things that I know that will be passionate for everybody on this call is how maybe you've seen an increase in workload efficiencies, and I suppose then that means a decrease in staff workload and an increase in staff well-being. I don't know if anybody wants to share anything on that.
I'd quite happily chip in there, but I probably will talk a little bit less about teaching and learning and a little bit more actually about business support side of things, because actually I really pleased that my establishment even used the platform for business support services, and the efficiency I have got out of my IT department during lockdown has been immense. The ability to chat, meet easily, talk, communicate, one single platform. I've got staff turning to me now that even work in IT services saying I'm more efficient sat at home than I am sat in an office, and yet traditionally their job was to fix things. We've reached that point. they clearly are more efficient. We've achieved things like online enrollments ready for September in 6 to 8 weeks that would have taken us 6 months if we were all sat around in it actually and physically on site. And that's primarily down to the fact that the Google tools can pull the teams together as and when required, and really get them communicating and really get it documented with ease. And it's been an absolute godsend. And my own chief exec admitted to all staff that we've clearly made the right decision during lockdown to be using the Google platform without a shadow of a doubt. She is a convert. She loves Google Meet. She's tried them all. She uses them all every day. And to come from her was music to my ears. Basically, it really was. But that's probably enough from me.
Yeah, you know what, Matt, I know, and Jackie, I'm going to come to you next, but I think it's important to talk about business services and not divide it. That actually, I think, apologies, I've said it last before. If anybody's heard me speak before, then you probably heard this a million times. That JFK moment, in terms of the importance of when JFK went in and spoke to the cleaner and said, "What do you do?" And he says, "I'm sending somebody to the moon." Because I look after both sides, and my whole ethos is that actually everybody's role in college is to support learning and actually to make sure they have a great experience and succeed and go on and raise their aspirations. So actually having everybody on a platform, being efficient, helping each other out with one single goal of learning, regardless of what your job is so important. But yeah, I'm going to get back off my soapbox and over to you, Jackie.
Yeah, and Steve, I absolutely agree with that. And we have teams who are experts in sharing and collaborating. And that's just so encouraging for me, because being a teacher myself many moons ago, I can remember the days of putting everything on a stick or saving everything to a certain drive. So in terms of workload, and also I do have a passion for health and well-being, one, to empower and motivate staff in terms of them talking to each other, sharing, collaborating and sharing resources, and then delivering a better offer in terms of teaching and learning, I think is just amazing. And we are on that journey to introduce that with the support areas as well. But absolutely agree, we're all here for that reason and in terms of that learning.
Yeah. Scott M?
Well, no,
like a
just
race.
gonna. I was just. No, just to echo what you said, Stephen. There, just a massive shout out to our business support teams at the college, because actually, out of the people we've put through, and it was a conscious decision to put all of our staff through the certified educator certification rather than the equivalent one that you can get through Google Cloud. You know, there's a kind of a more admin focused certification. We decided that everybody should, it's teaching and learning is our primary focus. So everybody should have an understanding of how classroom works and all of those sorts of things. And out of the 6 in-house certified trainers we've got now, 3 of them are from business support, and they're some of our most proactive kind of people who go out and actually teach other, business support people and also other curriculum staff to, in terms of Google stuff. So yeah, massive shout out to them, because I think they're fab. And a big shout out to our finance department too, because they actually use Google Sheets more than Excel. So I hear. Wow. So I think that's a massive
Preach. Can I just jump in before you do, Scott? Just because I've got the button. I think one of the things that is worth mentioning there, you've obviously talked about support staff doing the educator training. I've done the same as well, and the whole business team being aware of that, and that's what we're in this all for. Is for the educators. I'll maybe put Simon on the spot here. A couple of conversations we've had, not just with Simon, but with other, is about the kind of the training that goes behind the scenes, not just the admin console training, but some of the business support training, similar to the level 1 educator. Maybe that's is that on the roadmap, Simon, or is that something that maybe we could help develop with the guys at Google? Not to put you on the spot, but
no, I think it's a great call out. I really do. I think it's a great idea. I know there are plans to just increase the training in general around G Suite Enterprise for Education. The reason why we can't make that readily available outside of the classic remit of the IT admin, and the teaching and learning, absolutely. I think it does come into play, because there are other areas, like I mentioned before, when we talk about the detail analytics, for example, right? But even just the day to day, like these tools are being used by everyone, and they're becoming really the digital heartbeat for a lot of our customers as well. So we need to be considering all the different players within an institution, and certainly the business side too. So I think it's a really good point. I do know that we do have we're building out some additional training resources, lots of videos, lots more training. Lots of better tools, even for our partners, to help also deliver some great training. We have the Giuseppe Demo School. Giuseppe, by the way, is the acronym for G Suite Enterprise for Education. For anyone wondering, you say G Suite Enterprise for Education about 500 times a day, you'll start saying Giuseppe. So the Giuseppe Demo School is really, really useful, and our partners have access to that to really take customers through that training as well. But the reason why we can't be helping the other associates within institutions. Yeah.
Thanks, Sam. And I think that's massive. But I still agree with you, Scott. I think if they understand the idea of, if everybody understands that it's the education element, why we do classroom, it kind of puts it is that JFK stuff that Steve talks about. Scott, sorry, Scott Hall, I'll let you go. All
good. Thank you. Scott, I think your finance department should talk to my finance department, because using Google Sheets is huge. I mean, that's unbelievable. I think about the collaborative aspect from two sides. I think that we're really successful with teachers coming together and splitting up unit planning, either creating resources in Drive, reusing Google Classroom posts was huge. Not having to reinvent a wheel or a rubric, etc. If you're teaching across a grade level or a subject, there was no reason, in person or together to reinvent the wheel. And I think that's something that has continued as we're back in school face to face. The other thing when it comes to making connections is we were asynchronous as an entire school for 3 weeks. When we first were locked down, and we had a lot of feedback that there were a lot of isolated, students, a lot of isolated families, a lot of isolated teachers. And what we did is we started teachers hosting Google Meets as just kind of a check-in, kind of informal, what have you been doing today kind of meetings before we started the formal synchronized lessons. So it was kind of this emphasis on, or kind of a reaction to, the community and what we felt they needed. The Google tools were there and were able to provide that. And then once we started to get down to the actual learning and having a schedule and having students come to meets, every day, they didn't have to think about, I don't know about my settings or which buttons to push. They were already in that mindset. So, I don't think the well-beingness part of it should be underestimated.
Yeah, I think the ability of the platforms. So you've got communities that obviously is now Currents and Classroom. That ability to build a community, a family feeling when they're actually not being able to be in the classroom is so important. Whether they're everybody's at home and we go back into lockdown again, or we've just come out of it, or whether you've got some in and out. Whenever you speak to somebody, that isolation element is so key. And I think that ability to post individuals, to drop down and select your students to give them individual information or just a check-in. We've got virtual staff rooms going on where people can just check in, come together. You've got, I thought Ben said a chatty cafe, as in the woman's name, but an actual cafe. So for students as well to talk about issues that actually they might not want to share with their peers, but they might want to share with a member of staff. So there's loads of different ways and loads of great experiences. And I think that's the power. Google is powerful and is a tool, but actually it's the way that teachers and educators are using it and thinking outside of the box with the tools that are really bringing it to life, especially bringing those connectivity elements and community elements as well. Efficiency. One thing that just jumped into my mind was cloud search. And again, I'm hoping that's a surprise. Otherwise, I've failed in my research. But literally being able to go up to the Omnibox and literally do the Google search and just type something in rather than going to drive.google.com or a shortcut if you're more efficient than I am. Even seconds make minutes, make hours over a year. And actually just that efficiency of being able to search something from your Drive or anywhere within your G Suite in the top box is a time saver for so many. You don't even realize it now. You're just like, yeah, I could just type it in here. Well, actually, a while back we couldn't do that, and it's that iteration and development, isn't it? So I'm going to go back to teaching and learning as a focus, and I'm going to start to think about effective feedback and assessment and the impact that Google has had, and obviously enterprise as well. So what do we think are our big wins in terms of assessment feedback, and the way that we can now do it using Google and enterprise? Anybody want to be first? I'm going to go. Everybody's like, oh no. What? Anybody? Ben, you're going to have to come here and save me. It must be the way I'm asking these questions.
Mate, it's your Yorkshire twang, I reckon. I think so it is. Jackie's stepping up to the plate, I reckon. She unmuted herself. She's stepping up to the plate.
Well, this has been a game changer for us. So to be able to, instantly give feedback, we've been able to incorporate this into our teaching and learning strategy. So, brief answer for me, it's been a game changer to do it in a timely fashion and to, use a document instantly to give that feedback is really, really powerful.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that the Hattie's research around the immediacy of feedback and how quickly that happens, and then how students can then respond back to that. The tools within Classroom and within the G Suite allow that, and I think that's really powerful. And I'm guessing that somebody's going to want to talk about originality reports here and what that does. So I've got loads of great thoughts about originality reports, but I don't know if, rather than just listening to me blabbering on, if anybody else wants to talk about why originality reports might be a great thing for that.
I can jump in at any point.
I know you love originality reports, don't you, Simon?
Yeah. Maybe I will. I'll just mention a couple of things, right? And I always want to wait to hear it from the customer, but this might be useful just for anyone out there who's not familiar with originality reports. It is our positive approach to plagiarism. So I love that teachers and instructors have access to the report. I guess a few key things to say is that if students working on a piece of work, they can run up to 3 reports against the power of Google search. So we're talking tens of billions of pages and sites, of course. I think it's 40 million books as well. So pretty decent. It's the world's largest search index. And very, very soon, what's I think really critical information is that the peer-to-peer school match repository is coming imminently, let's say. I'm not going to give you an exact date, but honestly, any day now. So that's going to come soon. So what that will allow our customers to do is to build up their own repository within the domain, just to beat out plagiarism that might be occurring within the domain. Here's the important part around that. The important piece to know about is we won't be sharing that repository with other customers. That's a key piece of information, because security and privacy of our users' data is front and center of everything that we do. And we just don't think that really syncs with our approach to privacy and security. So we won't be sharing that out, between colleges, for example, between universities, between schools. It's more about, let's take a positive approach to it. Let's check against the world's largest search index. Let's have the ability to check against our own school community or college community. And that puts us in pretty good stead. And the last piece I'll say as well is the way you access originality reports is through Classroom or assignments. So, we talk a lot about how we want to be a friendlier ecosystem, right? We understand that customers might want to choose other LMSs out there. Maybe they want to be using Blackboard or Moodle or Canvas. Great, they're great solutions. And through assignments, which is a really useful grading tool, you can integrate and to any LMS that's LTI 1.1 above from a technical perspective, but basically a lot of the LMSs. So you'll be able to integrate and then access originality reports, which will just sync in seamlessly with your LMS. And you'll have the advantage of grading as well at the same time, so a less clunky experience. So there's a few key points there just worth calling out that maybe the customers have had some experience.
I was one of the beta testers on the peer-to-peer stuff as well, which is that is going to be huge. The fact that you're not just looking at what is out there on the internet. You actually, and it teaches hope I'm not stealing anybody's thunder here. It teaches that it's that positive approach. Teaches people about digital citizenship, about ownership, and about respect. So the whole elements around British values. Shout out British values. The idea about that people's work is not just for you just to rip off and steal, and then that learning. And Paul made a really, really great comment there saying how you've adapted a research source is a really hard thing to learn. I remember going to university and having to learn Harvard referencing. I hated it. And I got done loads of times because I put the date of the book in the wrong place and I put when I cited that source from. But the fact that it's teaching you this. And by the way, Google Docs has now got bibliography in. It came out yesterday, didn't it? So that's just a little side note. But the whole concept about teaching that in a positive way, so it's not punitive. You're not going to get in trouble for this unless you've got an opportunity to change your behaviour. That is massive, and that's such a better approach than a punitive way. And we won't mention other ways of doing it, but there are lots of ways that seem to be punitive, don't they? I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in.
I think you've nailed it there, Ben.
Sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Originality. The other thing about original. Sorry, Scott, you wanted to say something. Yeah, you guys go, and I'll finish up on that bit.
I wasn't going to say anything. I was just agreeing. It was a thumbs up.
Okay. The originality reports element of enterprise as well gives you an unlimited amount of originality reports. That's right. That is right. If you've got enterprise.
Unlimited access to originality reports. That's correct. So you can access originality reports right now as a G Suite for Education user. You can apply. You can apply to 5 assignments per course at the moment. But what we find is a lot of our customers, once they start using it, really really enjoy it and just want to have unlimited access. So that's what G Suite Enterprise for Education gives you. And it's probably worth at this point, if you don't mind, I'll just mention what's really interesting. Even hearing from our customers. Coming into G Suite Enterprise for Education from different angles, obviously a large one is Google Meet and the premium features, and we'll talk about some of those deadlines and maybe clarify some of the questions around those features as well. But some customers come at it from a security perspective or an MDM perspective, or it's a combination. We have had colleges come to us just because they said, "Look, we really like originality reports, and we see the value in that alone." And I think this is the thing, it's really about, at the end of the day, when you're making a business decision, you have to think about the ROI. Let's face it, there are a lot of options out there. And in a time when we're being asked to do more with less, we all know what's happening in the economy. It's really important to kind of weigh that up. So that's what I would say. That's what I really like about it, is that there are all these solutions. And if there are a handful of them that are really kind of giving you a lot of concern right here and right now, okay, yeah, absolutely. We could help you upgrade to G Suite Enterprise for Education, solve your meat issues, sure, But there's actually a lot more going on. There's a much larger conversation. And I know a lot of you are on this digital transformation journey. That is the biggest story here. How do we help you take the next step in a way that's affordable, in a way that actually makes sense? Not just for the here and now, but hybrid learning is here to stay. How are we going to meet the challenges and in all those areas? So that's what I really get excited about when we talk about these. At the end of the day, it's hard to pull them out of the context of the overall product suite. Yeah, probably enough from me.
Yeah, but it does bring it onto an interesting conversation, and I know that it's a conversation that many colleges, not sure about schools, but I'd be happy to be included in that conversation around. Do I do other plagiarism software is available, and one begins with a T and ends in an N, and those kind of conversations about they're fine, but they've had a monopoly on the market for a long time. Not saying there's anything wrong with that because it works and it's used by so many universities and colleges. But actually, as you're then saying, well, you've got these amazing features with me, and we're going to dive into those, Simon, and go through each because there's so much to get through. But then you even just look at the plagiarism. There's tens of thousands of pounds being spent on plagiarism tools across colleges and schools and HE as well. That do you offset that? Is anybody seen those savings and said, you know what, we're just going to get rid of it, or are we not at that point just yet? If I'm putting anybody on the spot.
I know that we've discussed, we use that product that you spoke of. And as an international school doing the IB, we have to some degree, use that tool because of how the programs are kind of reported on. But it is our sort of known going into the future that maybe as we start using this and developing the use of that product, or just originality reports, that maybe we could imagine in the future seeing that other product potentially going away. And of course, as you said, saving lots of money.
And it's that element of feed forward and being responsive so the learners develop their skills around, and the reasons why plagiarism and citation and everything else is so important, rather than just, you've not done it, you've plagiarized, I've got a tool that helps me check that, and I'm now going to tell you, actually students can check their own work before they submit. And I know we've mentioned that. That's so important that students then, okay, a lot of students might do it before the deadline, and you can see it, like in version history and stuff, where it's gone from like 1 second to 2 seconds where there's nothing there, and all of a sudden they've written a full assignment. I'm not talking about those students, but those students are actually trying to research effectively, trying to get it right, especially in their early stages of their learning, and actually maybe just want to check whether they've done it right, or where actually they've just not included the citation correctly in the bibliography. And I think that's important. It's in terms of a learning process, isn't it, for the students?
Yeah, I would just say really quickly, like, exactly. There's this negative connotation around how we treat plagiarism for obvious reasons. But imagine a tool that allows, students to kind of throw into let's call it the plagiarism black hole, and just kind of sit there and think, oh, I hope everything's okay. I don't think that's what we're building technology for. At the end of the day, this gets to the heart of, like, what's the point of all these solutions? And I think it really comes back down to a simplistic view of, like, we want to be supporting, positive learning, right, and encouraging students, and we don't want to be stymieing, really interesting ideas or thoughts, just because a student may be having a little bit of trouble with citations or paraphrasing something properly. And I remember experiencing that at university myself. I struggled a little bit with citations. I thought, it's a whole other thing, so it can stop you as well from pushing yourself forward. And I think that's what I really like. At the end of the day, the technology is just a tool. May as well be a shovel. It's no good if it doesn't do the job, right? So what we want to do is be really supporting students going forward.
I think the idea of transparency, and I think the other thing about it is looking at learning as process. A lot of times that when you're doing something like an originality report, it's like the end, and you're kind of passing judgment, so to speak. And I think that the way that Google has kind of positioned this tool, it is about the process of learning a skill that is essential in our world. And I think that's really important, that it is actually part of the process as opposed to, this negative end.
Definitely. I'm going to throw a big question out there, and I'm going to shift it on, and I'm going to pause like everybody normally does for a long period of time, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to think, and then Ben's going to come in and do a bit of a song. So if you want Ben to stop singing, somebody needs to answer quick. If you were in Simon's position, and we're not all lucky enough to be in Simon's position working for Google, but if you were working with another college and we're open to collaboration or another school, what would be the one tool or one feature of Enterprise or Google that would be the biggest win for you, that you would then say, you know what, this has been massive for us. This is why I think, as a friend or another college, you should do it.
I'll take that.
Right, okay.
And my answer is going to possibly surprise some of you.
Ben didn't even start singing then, Matt.
That threat was enough to make you answer quickly. I would say, having sat in plenty of IT directors' meetings over lockdown, it's got to be Gmail. The built-in security inside Gmail to prevent stuff getting in, particularly when JISC are all warning our sector at the minute that we're all being targeted by ransomware attacks and such like. That combination of Gmail with the sandboxing solution that you get in Enterprise, to me has probably saved our organisation significant amounts of money, basically. And
Matt, I know you don't. I know you don't want me to sing.
I really don't want you to sing.
But what I'm going to do is I am going to send that snippet to my IT directors and just say you need to meet this guy.
Yeah, because every time I sit in a directors meeting at the minute, everybody's using the opposition, and everybody's telling me that they've been phished. They've had some instances of ransomware, and I'm sat in the corner thinking I'm keeping quiet. And so far, so good. And I think that's been the absolute godsend feature. And when we've merged with colleges, that's the first thing we've done. We've taken out the rival and put them straight onto Gmail. And I think it's really, really paid off. There you go.
Great start. Scott M?
For us, it was premium versions in Meet, premium features in Meet. That was our kind of clincher in terms of sort of not convincing is maybe the wrong word, but getting them to sort of buy into it in terms of senior leadership. I think our IT manager was very much like Matt, then sort of saying things like that, but then, not getting the money to be able to do it. But then when we said, have you seen the teaching and learning stuff you can do with it? All of a sudden senior leadership were like, yeah, let's buy it. Boom, done. And I think that, it's about, for me, I think it's about the way you phrase it, isn't it? To the people who have got the money, looking at you, Jackie, it's about you've got to sell it. You've got to sell it internally as well to be able to, showcase what it can do across the organization, business support, the IT security features, and teaching and learning, the curriculum side of things. And for us, the clincher was the premium features in Meet.
I can echo that. I think that, certainly premium features in Meet, and just the variety of things that, when we made the decision, knowing what was probably going to play out from when we made the decision in March, and then all the things that have come from that, all the possibilities and all the kind of experiences that our students and our teachers and our community have had since then, because of having the enhanced features in Meet, I think have definitely paid for itself. And I could talk about a lot of things. As I said earlier, being in Switzerland, we have an issue about where our data is. That's a huge thing. Choosing the data center. But as far as like the real thing we chose, I think was that. And then of course, it is the bonus of all the other things in making that decision.
Jackie, anything from you, do you think, as either the person who's made the decision, or because it's interesting, some CEOs actually are the ones who bring it in, and sometimes they're the ones who are pitched at. So did you do the pitch, or were you pitched at? It's interesting.
Well, a bit of both, really, from previous experiences, because I'm sort of 16 months into my role here at City College. So Google was the platform, but we've just accelerated that more recently, and because of lockdown. But I suppose I agree with everybody else, but the bit that's in there for me as well in terms of recent events is that almost any device can be accessed through G Suite. So that's something that stays in my head right now, that there's an opportunity for all to plug into that.
Yeah, totally. And I think, I don't think we've mentioned it. And apologies, because Ben will tell you, he's like, you've not been listening. Neverwhere. And I know that...
we haven't mentioned it. Well done.
Right, nice one. Right, I've been listening. Right. So when we think about the ability to be a device agnostic, and in lockdown, if you like me, the house and the cupboards got cleaned, more so than they ever had done. And we found devices and laptops at home. And then you go back to your estate and you're thinking, those laptops that nobody ever, that literally, if you got caught by the police, they're that heavy, they'd be used, they're massive things out there, they're like strapped onto your back like a proton pack. The ability in terms of Neverwhere to be able to repurpose those devices for really cheap. I think Jamie and Ian might be able to jump in, or Simon, in terms of £15 to repurpose a device, to make it cloud ready, that actually probably wasn't being used because of its speed and process. And then give those to your disadvantaged students or in the college is a massive thing that people need to be doing in terms of the value for money. if you're a school or a college listening or watching back after, if you haven't checked out Neverwhere, you have to in terms of USuite, because I guarantee there'll be repurposed ones you can buy and get going. And if you think about making us money go further, you have to be thinking about Neverwhere. For me, if you're a Google organization, or could be the switch to it.
Can I also add there as well, for all those, if there are any technical managers listening or whatever, everybody trying to meet the whole patching compliance piece for cyber accreditations, it's automatic because it's on Chrome OS. And for us, that's an absolute godsend. Literally, earlier this week, my head of IT and business learning agreed for me to convert all the business machines to Neverwhere. And that's just going to save us a whole load of work, and he's quite happy to just run with that. So the teachers are embracing it. They can see the benefits from it. And it just makes life so much easier. So much easier.
Yeah, and we've got a great solution here. If anybody gets any challenges, this will be recorded and will stay on YouTube for you. You can listen to me and Ben waffle on as well, but let's just put the pictures of a CEO, some people who are leading the charge, and obviously Matt. From all aspects, IT departments don't really have of an argument anymore. I think that's the interesting bit. And if they do, just keep playing Matt's voice over and over again. That'll be fine. And win-win. Win-win.
The efficiency of having all those devices in Neverwhere is really amazing. I know we just turned around in our IT department about 80 that we have kind of repurposed from old cupboards, etc., and putting them in the hands of students. And yeah, it's almost. Yeah, if you're not doing it, it really is something to explore.
Yeah, I think Chris has just mentioned in terms of not only that for that £15, that actually it's ability, but also you can manage it like any Chromebook in terms of your system using that license to be able to push out stuff and everything else across your domain, which is so vital. Sorry, Ben.
No, you're not sorry. You say sorry.
I know, but I'm just trying to be polite in front of people. If it was just me and you, I wouldn't be saying sorry. You know the rules.
Well, we are coming towards a close. There's some comments that are coming in the chat. I know we've put some in there already. There is a question that might be for addressed to Simon. If you can an answer to it. But also we want to give Simon that opportunity to be able to talk about those timeframes, things that we were talking about, and then discuss some of the other upcoming webinars that are coming on as well. So if I can just point to one, and I've got this ready to go. It's from Keely.
Sean.
Thanks. It says, will there be option to view classroom for a student view? She's got one Chromebook logged in as a staff and a second as a student. It's one of those. I bet it's a feature request that's asked quite a lot. So I don't know if this is something that you might not be able to share, Simon, but you might.
Yeah, no, it's I love this. It is a feature request I'm across as well. I don't have a great update right now for this, but maybe it is worth pointing out that we have heard this a lot actually. And I think it's a really great feature request. So yeah, stay tuned for updates. I think it's a really interesting one. And if you don't mind, maybe I will just jump into those deadlines. It's really important for everyone out there listening to understand a few of the deadlines. So there are two major deadlines. One is September 30. September 30 is the deadline for Premium Meet features to all G Suite for Education users. So as many of you know, Google rolled out the Premium Meet features, and they were the ability to record meetings, the ability to host meetings larger than 100 to up to 250 participants per meet, and the ability to live stream 100K within domain. After September 30, they'll no longer be available to all G Suite users, but you can upgrade to G Suite Enterprise for Education if you want to retain them. One thing that there is some confusion around is Meet recording. So later on in the year, there'll be like an in-between solution called temporary recordings available to everybody. So if you don't upgrade to G Suite Enterprise for Education, you'll have access to temporary recordings. And what temporary recordings will allow you to do is record meets up to 30 days, after which time they will vanish. So they're great from a short-term accessibility point of view. They're not really like a long-term solution, but if that's all you need, then great. At least teachers and learners out there will still have access. Until that is rolled out, the Premium Meet functionality will still continue. So that's just one I wanted to point out. It will continue past September 30 just so nobody's disadvantaged. But for all the reasons we talked about. If you're interested in long-term audit trails around those meets and long-term saving of those meetings as well, that's where the upgrade makes sense with the meet record. But after September 30, host your meetings up to 250 participants and live stream to 100K will go back to G Suite Enterprise for Education. The second update is to talk about October 31. So we have this great introductory price offer, 50% discount for full domain licensing. And what that means is you license all your staff and gain free licenses on a ratio of 1 to 10. So that 50% discount is, instead of paying £3.50 per user per month for staff licenses, you pay £1.75 per user per month. After October 31, that offer will discontinue. The other really important piece of the puzzle is, on the same date, October 31, you'll no longer have the ability to have the 3-year price lock. So what that means is, until October 31, you'll have the opportunity to come into the upgrade at that 50% discount rate, but you'll also have the opportunity to secure a 3-year price lock renewal. So what that means is you're not locked into a contract for 3 years, but at that renewal stage, you have the option to just continue the discount rate for 3 years, which is significant if you're considering what that adds up to over 3 years, right? So I really wanted to point those out because I want to make sure that all of our customers out there just have had the opportunity to really kind of understand your options and then, make an educated decision from there, whether this is going to be the best solution for you or the best upgrade for you, or whether it makes sense to stay with G Suite for Education, which we will continue to upgrade and still, look after all our customers as well. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I'm so glad. I didn't know whether I could share that information in terms of the 3-year plan. You've said it now, so that's all right. It's out there. So I think that's the thing for a big organisation, or even if not, if you're a school, for a local authority, a trust, or in a matter, anything like that, whether it's £1,500 or whether it's £15,000 in terms of what your full domain would be, it's a massive saving and it's scalable, isn't it? So over 3 years to be able to lock that in it is key, and also not to be tied in as well. I think is, like you said, that you can have it if for whatever reason, and I think I don't think we'll be seeing many people go back. But if you turn around and said, actually, it's not for me next year, that's fine. You're not having to buy it free. You're not locked in. But I think that's vital. So 31st of October. You need to get on it.
Yeah,
people.
and if you're interested, the best people to talk to is C Learning, right? Have a chat with Jamie and Ian, Chris as well. Those guys are great. There's not a lot they don't know about G Suite Enterprise for Education. So have a discussion with them, and they'll be able to help you out.
Let me just bob in C Learnings. So there's their address up there. I'm sure our guests and they're well renowned in terms of being a Google Premier partner. So doing some great work and putting this event on in collaboration with them, Edufuturists and Google as well. But just seeing if there's any comments or anything coming in. Okay, we do have one. And I think we feel that putting Simon on the spot here is going to be wiping his brow into this, but you potentially could do, but it's just the extra clicks, isn't it?
You could do that. Yeah, there's all kinds of workarounds. Absolutely, and there's lots of options for customers, and they're fair if they make sense for the customer. What we try and do is make things seamless and integrated and easy for the teaching experience. I think we could probably all agree that teachers have a lot to consider as it is, and navigating away with these workarounds. Q&A docs is a great example of that too, right? Bringing Q&A into Meet integration is really useful because it's a bit of a pain to have to go on and open up another document and refer to that one. Bringing everything into the native tool, including recording, is useful.
So I think scrolling along the bottom, we've kept it to time, Ben. I can't believe it. What an interesting.
If you don't go on now, you will.
I'm going to ramble. No, I'm not. Just a massive thank you to the panel. It's been really insightful. I've learned so much, and I've been making notes. I was typing at one point, so I had to mute my mic. So apologies if anybody heard that. typing away the notes. But yeah, a big thanks to our guest, to Matt, to Jackie, to Scott, and to Simon for his time as well. This event doesn't happen in terms of the guests and the impact and the stories that you're able to tell. A massive shout out to C Learning. This is put in partnership with Google and us Edufuturists and C Learning as well. We've got another event, so it's just scrolling along the bottom, looking at enterprise.edufuturists.com. The next one on the 22nd of October at 1:30 till 3 will be focusing around teachers and their use of Enterprise as well. Reach out. Thank you very much for listening, and thanks to the panel as well. Absolutely brilliant.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.